We talk about the red zone. Now I know, of course, you weren't here last year, but Baker in the red zone last year completed 64% of his passes and 20 touchdowns, no interceptions. This year he's 6'4", 24, and 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, but only 25%. What's going on there?
Obviously, we're not doing it well enough. I mean, that's quite a major difference. I mean, there's no way to defend that. We've obviously, you're going to get tired of me every week saying it, but we have to, it starts with scheming it better, practice it better, and execute it better. I mean, that's how you do it, because everybody has a hand in that, really, really does. From how we scheme it, how we execute it, how we get the guys to practice it, and then once we get down there, guys making plays. So, as we saw the other night.
How do you sort of explain the slow or sluggish start that Baker is off to? What are you seeing in him that isn't going right?
Wish it was that simple. Obviously, as I just said a second ago, we obviously I'll take, for instance, say the other night, and this is just a microcosm of where we've been at this point. So we start off the game, we get a good field position, we get a nice play to start it. On the very next play, we have a drop and a mental error by our right tackle not going out, and then we immediately have a false start. So you're on the road with an opportunity to really take the crowd out of it and get a fast start. And we do some things that we've unfortunately done too often, and that is shoot ourselves in the foot with not doing it better than they do it. And that's the start of it. We talked about it today earlier in terms of what does an effective offense look like? And it starts with an effective game plan, giving ourselves opportunities and answers to what they're going to do, taking advantage of matchups, looks, taking it to the meeting rooms, then onto the field, and then executing it and carrying that over. And we just haven't been able to do that consistently enough, and that's obvious. So that's obviously the goal, and we just have to find a way to do that better, because if we don't, then the product's going to continue to look like that.
Speaking of taking advantage of matchups, one thing Baker said yesterday is that until we make people pay for the way that they're defending Beckham, it's going to be difficult to get him the ball more frequently. Is that the way you see it, in the way that people are scheming you, and do you have to make them pay with different matchups in order to kind of loosen things up for him to get him the ball more often?
There's a part of that. There's a part of it that teams do play, players like Odell differently. They do. I think at times you have to take advantage when they're not, which we haven't as often as you'd like. But with all that being said, it does help when you have other players. We've said that before with, balance is having enough people where they can't just play a certain player, or all you have is a running game and they can load the box and you can't throw it. There's all pieces to it, how you formation people, where you put different individuals to give yourself a chance to get them the ball. So obviously we're going to continue to do those things with all of our players to try and put them in the best position to be successful. With that being said, it is difficult when you've got good skill players, because you do want to run Nick Chubb. He's a good running back, so you want to involve him. And the other nights, a couple weeks ago when we had the Ravens, he didn't get as many opportunities, but it didn't matter as much. Last week we had 49 snaps. I mean, we just didn't have the ball that often. And we didn't get him the ball as often as probably we could.
You were referencing some of the mistakes you guys had early in the game, whether it was a drop or penalty or turnover. What do you attribute to just the self-destruction that you guys have had at a lot of times that's put you in bad spots, whether it was the Tennessee game or this game in San Francisco, where you have a play like ball tips out of Cowboys' hands and that's a 14-point swing there?
It's hard to say exactly. Obviously, we're not doing it well enough, starting with myself and us coaches. I mean, we're all a part of it. And I always used to say, if you want, from a coaching perspective, if you want some of the credit when you have success, you got to own it when you don't. You can't just say, boy, what a great scheme 2 weeks ago, and then this week it was a great scheme, we just didn't execute. No, it's all of us. I mean, we've got to do a better job of installing it, players understanding what we expect out of a certain concept, then going on the field and making sure we execute it as a high level, and then being able to take that over to the field. But right now, we've got too many people taking turns at each individual person, which puts you in a position to be really choppy. Because it's just in that first, like I said, after that first completion, it wasn't the same person that jumped off sides that we had the errors with the play before. So it's just, when you do that, it's going to look like that until we get it resolved collectively.
Todd, the general coaching principle, what are the advantages of going empty in such a restricted area as inside the 5 or inside the 10?
Well, I know what you're kind of getting at because of just our lack of success down there in some ways, as to why it comes up that way. One way can be matchups, another can be space that you're creating for some of your receivers. Looks that you see on tape that may carry over into a given game plan. Sometimes you like, certain tightened down sets more than others. Sometimes it happens, it comes up on third downs, probably more than anything. So sometimes it's come up at the end of the game, and then it comes to comfort level of the guy calling it. I mean, that's I'm not backing out of it. I mean, everybody has their personality and how they see the best way to attack somebody in any given part of the field, not just the red zone, but early down distance, third downs. That's all part of it.
So if I'm remembering this the right way, you've had it both ways. That is, you joined an NFL staff that was already midstream with the head coach, and this is your second straight time of being in a startup coaching situation. And the question is, how tough is it to be in that startup year with a new head coach?
I don't see it as tough. The tough part is not moving the ball, not winning. I mean, to me, that's the frustrating thing. It's not, there's nothing in terms of organizationally or the staff or the things or the players. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just frustrating because we're paid to do a job. I mean, that's the fact. I mean, this is a bottom line business. And right now we're not as successful as we'd like to be, and that's not good enough. I mean, we've got to find a way to be more consistent. And again, but it is, I will say this, it's a week-to-week league, and it doesn't take long to get some of these things resolved, and all of a sudden, momentum is a powerful thing, and you feel good about it. We obviously didn't carry that over, but again, we're on to Seattle. I know that's everybody says that, but we have to be. I mean, that is what it is. I mean, we got to stop looking in the rearview mirror. We've assessed the issues that we've got to try and address. Now it's time to fix them because, believe me, it's no fun coming in here and saying the same thing every week. I promise you, it's not. So the bottom line is it's up to us to fix it. There's no one else coming to save us. It's not like we're going to hire 4 guys outside as a coaching staff and bring in 10 other players. I mean, we have what we have. I mean, this is what we have. We've got to fix it.
So much focus on the red zone, but Baker was so successful last year. I know it's a different team, different season and all that. But is your observation, being a first-time look at him as a coach, does he get overly excited inside the red zone? Passes, too much velocity, frantic decisions, skittishness?
Again, my sample size is small. I don't see that in practice. So there's a number of I didn't think, like take for instance the other night, the throw to Antonio. Now I know he threw it on time. It was a pretty quick throw, but I didn't see that. He was pretty, in my mind, decisive in where he was going with the ball. He saw it clean, threw it. We didn't execute the play. I mean, for God's sakes. I mean, it's catastrophic. I mean, it completely changed the game. As average as we played up to that point, it's changed. I mean, it just, and that's, from then it was not fun. But at that point, we were okay. I mean, we were still finding our way, but we just didn't execute. So to say that in a small sample size, again, there's a lot of things that go into it. It really is. not just him. I mean, it's just all of us. And again, what can make a QB that way? Scheme. What can make a QB that way? Protection. What can make a QB that route running? All of the above. It's not just one thing. But I haven't seen that so much to where yet. In terms of a sample size, Tony, that's all I'm getting at.
Rams game too? At the
Well,
end there?
again, it came down at the end where, well, again, that, how many is, right, no, I'm with you. I mean, again, I get what you're getting at. To me, a sample size is more than even just two handfuls of plays. To me, a sample size is a season. It's, since I wasn't here last year, to me, it's more than just that. But I understand where you're headed with it.
Enough of Higgins to sense that the chemistry developed with Mayfield last year. Can his return make a subtle difference, or maybe even more than a subtle difference for Mayfield?
Well, again, we want as many good players we have on the field. So him coming back, certainly, you know, Shard's a good player, and we welcome him back when he's healthy.
Carroll on the conference call. You talk about young quarterbacks and how it's almost unfair to expect a steady or progression of performance, and there's going to be dips. Do you think that's just normal for a quarterback in his? I mean, Baker obviously is in his second year to have some of these bumps in the road that he's having, or is it alarming that it's regressed from his rookie year?
Well, it's again, I wasn't here last year, so it's hard for me to assess what was done here a year ago. But I think it's with any player, especially even younger players, you're going to have, you know, ups and downs. Even your best players have times that, even your best baseball players go 0 for 4. Even your best basketball players have poor shooting nights. So you have ups and downs as players, and it happens more frequently when you're younger and when you're not playing as well around a player, and when you're not doing as well as you can do it. Again, starting with us, it's never just one group. It's everybody. We're responsible for the product we put on the field, and we have to do it better.
When you're sitting with players and you're going through film, and you see opportunities missed, we hear all the time we have to make the corrections. We just have to make the corrections and move forward. Can you just kind of explain what that entails and how you take that from the film room to the practice room and then to a game?
Well, it'd take us probably longer than my time allots, but it's really not that difficult to just, you'll take it, we play a game. I'll start with the beginning of the week, and you get the film and you critique it and you go through it and you look at it and say, well, why didn't we execute this? Sometimes it has to do with the playing against the best in the world. A guy doesn't win. You know, a corner covers him. We lose on a guy gets a good pass rush. But then you assess those things, and then you analyze, okay, from a practice model, what do we need to practice during the week? Not only for us, but for the opponent. What do we need to get better at technically? Those kind of things. So we do it better irrespective of what we call. Irrespective of whatever the play call is. It doesn't matter if you call this route concept if we run a crappy hitch route. It doesn't matter if we call this certain play and we don't execute the technique or fundamental that you're asking a certain player to do, because at that point it won't be about the call. It'll be about how we do those things better irrespective of who you're playing. And that's the start when you're choppy, is take care of yourself first. Take care of scheme second. Repair those things that you need repairing from a technical, mistake-filled issue that you have, and then figure out then next. Because if you don't have those things fixed, the game plan won't matter at that point, because you're game planning, yet you're still not executing what you're expecting your guys to do. And that's, again, as I say, that's all of us. That's not any one particular group in general. But that's where we've got to get to. Otherwise, we're going to continue to get the same result. I mean, that's everywhere I've been. This is not the only place that this has come up. It's fixing it. That's the main part.
You talked about the line before, in weeks previously. I think you've been more complimentary. You know, they've been hanging in and doing pretty well. Did you see them take a step back against the 49ers as a group?
I wouldn't say that. I would just say that they're very good up front. And when you get behind a really good defensive front, it's got a chance to look like that. that's how I see it. I thought we ran the ball fairly well, considering for the number of plays we had. We had the one long run by Nick, but it wasn't as if, boy, there's nowhere to run it, that we have no opportunity. So that within itself, you would say, well, I thought we did pretty good against a good defensive front, pretty good linebackers. But when you get behind and you allow, like we said before, that type of talent to just tee off and not have to worry about other things, you're going to put yourself at risk. You just are. That's a fact. Some teams, they won't expose you as much as a team that has that kind of ability. And that's one that can if you get behind.
Or is there more, some guys don't understand what the offense yet, or what, anything else?
Oh, I don't think it's that they don't understand the offense. God, I would hope that's not the case. But obviously some of the other things that, again, it's collective. Call it what you will. We just, we got to do it better. I mean, obviously from a understanding of what's expected of them, some of it is in terms of just mental lapses. Some of it is just, discipline, mental discipline, in terms of pre-snap penalties. That is going to bite you in the rear end. And some of it is, we got to coach it better. I mean, that's a fact. I mean, there is no dodging this. I mean, it's, we got to do it better.
When you guys talk about, like if one player breaks down, the whole play falls apart. I mean, do other teams, successful teams, all 11 guys are doing exactly what they're supposed to? Is that what happens? Or do teams overcome a breakdown here and there to be successful?
First of all, I mean, bad football loses before good football wins. I mean, you don't even give yourself a chance. So let's just start with that, okay? But there are times where you do overcome that, and someone makes a mistake and they're not as big a factor in the play. I mean, you can have a receiver on the backside of a play screw up and you can still have a successful play. They're not a factor. You can have the same thing on defense where you have a bust on the perimeter, but you get good pass rush and it never gets exposed. So, but the bottom line is everybody's going to have their fair share of mistakes. It's shrinking those so it looks like you want it to look like. Stacking plays that look like you want it to look like.
It seems to me, you've been a head coach before, so you can relate to this question. Coaches always have this challenge of furthering their offense and developing their quarterback versus winning the game, right? How hard is it to just go back to basics, especially when you're a contending team, and not worry about your offense developing and just, for lack of a better phrase, running the ball? Go back, win the game first, and worry about developing the offense after.
Well, I would hope that's what we're doing. I would hope that deep down that is the number one goal, is that we are trying to win the game and that we are trying to run the football. But again, sometimes statistics can show a different side of that when you're losing. I mean, I don't think at one point the other night when it was still a ball game, if you looked at where probably at that point our run-pass ratio wouldn't have been so skewed. I know we run the football because I sit up there and I'm charting it. So I know at a certain point it turns. It just does. All of a sudden you go from a balance to imbalance because the only chance you have, you're not going to have enough possessions. You're just not. The clock's going to run on you. But I would hope that we understand the formula for us to win, and I know it is. I shouldn't say I hope. That would be like I'm not involved, is to run the football, play action, get the ball out of his hands quickly, be able to move the chains. Still, we want to be explosive. We have good players. And obviously, when games get away from you, it becomes where there is an imbalance there. And I really don't think that's what we're trying to do, is to develop an offense or to do anything other than do what we think is the best interest of the Browns, and the best interest of the Browns to move the football and win collectively as a team and play complementary football. And if I thought that, then, which I don't, because I don't see that. Sometimes it may look like that, but I don't think that's what we're trying to do. I think we're trying to run the football first, play complementary football, not turn it over, all the things that give you the best chance to win.